So America's dad, Bernie Sanders, went on some of the Sunday shows over the weekend. Here he's on CBS's Face the Nation. I think it's CBS. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. Pretty sure. And he was asked a question about healthcare. And to anybody who knows what they're talking about on this issue, even broadly, generally, like, you don't need to know all the details. You don't need to know every, like, nook and cranny of Obamacare. But if you just have a general idea of what's going on with healthcare in this country and what the basic things are, this is going to insult your intelligence. So look at the question, look at the framing. And that's a trick a lot of people are unaware of. Oftentimes, the trick is in the framing of the question. You know, it's not like they just come out with it and state something that's wrong. It's they set it up in a way where if you criticize them, they get to turn around and say, "No, I was just posing a question. I don't know why you're mad at me. I'm just asking questions over here." So take a look, and then we'll discuss.
I want to get to the issue of health care. The president this week said he wants the courts to strike down Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. But to be fair, Senator, you want to replace Obamacare too. You want to replace it with Medicare for All, this government-run, government-financed program. So if the courts strike down the ACA, does that ultimately help you?
No. Look, yes, Trump has an idea on health care. His idea is to throw 32 million Americans off of the health insurance they have, doing away with insurance for kids who are 26 years of age or younger who are on their parents' plans, doing away with the protections that the ACA has for pre-existing conditions, Margaret. That means if you have cancer, you have heart disease, you have diabetes. If Trump gets his way, the cost of health insurance for you will be so high that many people literally will not be able to afford it. Thousands of people will literally die. That's Trump's health insurance plan. My plan's just a little bit different. I think we should join the rest of the industrialized world, guarantee health care to all people as a right, end the absurdity of the United States spending twice as much per capita on health care as any other nation, while our life expectancy is actually going down and our health care outcomes are worse than many other countries. And by the way, we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Margaret, let me make a campaign promise to you, and you can repeat this, play this tape over if I'm elected president. And that is, if I am elected president, I'm going to cut prescription drug costs in this country by 50%.
So Bernie did a wonderful job there, as he always does, hammering away on policy substance. And it's always refreshing to hear that, especially in corporate media where we rarely, if ever, hear it. But that question, that's a smear question. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. I mean, what an absurd question. So President Trump is trying to kill the Affordable Care Act, but if you really think about it, don't you kind of agree with that? Bernie Sanders voted for the Affordable Care Act. Why did he vote for it? Well, very simply, because he knew at that last minute, when Obama had already given away the farm, there was no other option. It was either do nothing and have whatever it was at the time, 35 million people have no health insurance, or cover millions more, protect pre-existing conditions, let kids stay on their parents' rolls until they're 26, and all the other decent provisions of Obamacare. He knew that. So when he was presented with the option, like, oh, hey, which way are you going to go? Of course he chose, I would like the least shitty path, please. I'll take that. So to ask that question, you know, he's against Obamacare. Aren't you against Obamacare too? I mean, like, you want to do Medicare for all. Yes, he wants to do Medicare for all and cover everybody in the country and cut the price in half. And Donald Trump and the Republicans want to kick about 30 million more people off of health insurance. Isn't that, like, kind of the same? I mean, seriously, if you think about it, you're both technically against the Affordable Care Act. I mean, Again, that's a question that insults the intelligence of people who know anything about this topic. I mean, I guess there are old, out-of-touch people who are watching this who don't know anything, and they're just like, oh, Bernie's against Obamacare. Well, that means Bernie's against Obama, and Obama has a 60% approval rating, and us Democrats love Obama, therefore he's canceled. Like, this is all the subtext of what's going on here. But to try to conflate and compare Bernie's position to the position of the Republicans, there's a reason why he laughed at that. He laughed at that because that's beyond ridiculous. That's like saying, let me make an analogy here for you. That's like discussing politics with somebody and saying, well, listen, if you're a libertarian socialist, isn't that like kind of like being a libertarian? Because libertarian is in both terms. Yeah, except libertarian socialist is a left-wing philosophy, and libertarianism in the context of the United States is basically anarcho-capitalism, which is a right-wing philosophy. So, no, those things couldn't be more different. Or another example is like saying, well, isn't anarcho-capitalism and anarchism like basically the same thing? Because, you know, anarchism is in both of the terms. Well, no, one of those things is a left-wing philosophy. The other one is a far right-wing philosophy. So, again, this is just stupid gotchaism, where it doesn't even matter what his answer is there. The attempt is to try to trick people into thinking, oh my God, Bernie Sanders, see? Horseshoe theory is correct, where, you know, you have the far left agreeing with the far right, and they agree and want to get rid of Obamacare. Sure, one of them wants to basically expand on Obamacare to go to Medicare for all to cover everybody, and the other one wants to kick millions of people off of their health insurance and go in the wrong direction. But, you know, it's basically the same thing. Don't you secretly like it, Bernie, that we're going to kick, or Trump's trying to kick millions of people off of their health insurance? You're asking Bernie Sanders if he agrees that it's a good thing to kick millions of people off their health insurance, when every time the guy gives a speech or an interview, he says very clearly, it's crazy we don't have everybody in this country covered. We need to catch up to the rest of the industrialized world. So that is, listen, and the thing that's annoying me about this particular clip, if you can't tell I'm very mad about it, is that host is smart enough to know. That host is smart enough to know. She knows the deal. She knows that this is a bullshit question and totally bullshit framing. You think she doesn't know this? You think she doesn't understand the deep qualitative difference between what Bernie Sanders is for and what Donald Trump is for and the Republicans are for? Of course she gets it. She's being obtuse on purpose. This is her job. And I'm going to make a prediction for everybody today, right here, right now. If Bernie Sanders happens to get the nomination, and that is likely, he is the favorite, I think a lot of centrist-minded Democrats are going to break for Donald Trump. And let me be clear, I don't mean average Joe voter centrist Democrats, because they will vote for Bernie. What I mean is the assholes in the DC elitist bubble. The assholes in the DC elitist bubble will break for Donald Trump over Bernie Sanders. And this isn't like a crazy prediction, because we've already seen some evidence of it. There's a clip of Donnie Deutsch on Morning Joe from a couple weeks ago where he says, effectively, if Bernie gets the nomination, I'm going to have to vote for Trump. And Joe Scarborough tried to put the brakes on that and help him save face. Said, no, you didn't really mean that. Trump's a bigot, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee you, if Bernie Sanders gets the nomination, many well-known elitist Democrats will break for Donald Trump. And you will see the claws come out from the media in a way you've never seen it before. And this is even with the media already being incredibly hostile to Bernie Sanders. I can't tell you how many puff pieces I've seen about Pete Buttigieg to this point. It's endless. It's endless. And we're going to get to a story about him later. You're going to see why he's not all he's cracked out to be. Cracked out to be? I think he's cracked up to be. He was talking about policy, and he basically said, like, policy, bro? I don't like being boxed in and stuff. And corporate media is, like, drooling on themselves. And I've seen, like, he knows how to speak Norwegian, and there were, reporters from Norway asking him questions, and he was answering in a different language, and then the media was like, ooh, he's so cultured. And they're trying, what they're doing at this moment is similar to what happened in the 2016 primary on the Republican side. They're hedging their bets. So they're trying to say, okay, we need to back Kamala, we need to back Beto. Of course, Bet on My Stork has endless puff pieces, and they'll continue. And now they see, okay, I think Buttigieg will play ball. He'll play ball. So let's back him. By the way, he's already, originally he was talking about Medicare for all, and we need to change the debate, and the real compromise position is Medicare for all. Now, Buttigieg is on the side of, well, no, Medicare for all who want it. Medicare for America. So, in other words, what that is just a public option. So he's starting the debate yet again by caving and conceding all the way to a centrist position, and then you're going to get nothing. But in his mind, he thinks, wonderful. But bro, policy, schmolicy. What we need to do is, he really said this, we need to put philosophy first and our values and stuff. That's the old trick of the corporate Democrats. Talk vague, generalized nonsense so you're not nailed down on policy, so when you don't do dick, you get to turn around and say, I never said I was going to do Medicare for all. I was just saying his values are good, and I'm for good things and against bad things. So they're hedging their bets, man. But Bernie Sanders, the front runner in this race by 1.5 miles. Biden in some polls is up, but those are oversampling old people. But nonetheless, he's up, but he hasn't officially announced yet, at least as of the recording of this video. But Bernie, the obvious front runner, not being treated as the obvious front runner. No positive pieces on him. But Buttigieg, who's in 6th and is creeping up slowly, ever so slowly, nonstop puff pieces all over the place, talking about how great he is. I'm so sick of this biased media. And guys, many of them don't even know they're biased. It's just that they are in a social circle that looks down on Bernie Sanders. They think, please, who are we kidding? There's no way this guy's going to get elected. But they're fundamentally misreading the political mood in the same way these same idiots did not see Donald Trump coming, but I did. They still don't get it. All these years later, they still don't get it. They don't understand. We're in a populist anti-corruption era. He's the obvious front runner. And instead of asking serious questions and diving into serious issues, what do? Frame questions like you just saw there. Aren't you secretly kind of like Trump because you're against Obamacare and he's against Obamacare? Right, Bernie's against Obamacare even though he voted for it at the last minute because it was better than no change at all. But somehow he's against Obamacare. And it's kind of the same thing even though Bernie wants everybody covered for a lower price and Trump wants to kick millions of people off health insurance. This is embarrassing. What we're watching here is embarrassing. And what you just saw right there, make no mistake about it, is why this show exists and why this show is successful. It's not because, oh my God, Kyle's so good and he's such a genius. No, it's that I'm meeting the bare minimum requirement for making sense. And these people are just off in la la land, up their own ass, thinking that they're nailing it when they're just reflecting DC establishment bubble wisdom, which of course is the opposite of wisdom. It's incredibly stupid.